A girl asks well-known novelist Olivia Perkins for a signature at the beginning of the film. Graciously accepting the compliment, the author smiles and signs the girl's book. Following an extended business meeting, Olivia's boyfriend, Kyle, shows up just as the girl is leaving. With their inverse only a few months away, she eagerly shares her romantic holiday itinerary to the Haven Islands. But Kyle says he wants to split up, not celebrate. Olivia, taken aback, attempts to talk sense into his head, but he insists that this is the right choice for them both. Olivia goes to a video chat with her publisher 1 month after the unpleasant split. Although she hasn't written a single phrase, she tells the publisher that she is working on the next novel's idea. Olivia's manager reminds her of the pressure to pull off the largest book release of the season. A new, non-negotiable deadline of 10 days is then established with a strong prod. Olivia, cornered but unflinching, swallows her pride and swears she will provide. In the meanwhile, Prince Alexander reads Lovebound, a gripping adventure book, while living in the made-up country of Trovia. Olivia Perkins, the novelist, has inspired him, and he yearns to escape his regal lifestyle. Winston, his butler, however, discloses a jam-packed itinerary of formal events, involving speeches, dinners, official visits, and finally, a lavish ball at their castle. Next, a letter from Dr. Lee, who oversees a marine life conservatory in the Haven Islands, is given to him by the butler. Alexander is intrigued and decides to open the mail to find an invitation to a fundraising event on the Haven Islands Marine Reserve property. Winston tells him that the royal ball falls on the same day as the fundraiser. Abruptly, Queen Patricia walks into the room and informs him that she saw Catherine, the woman of Rena Palace, attempting to set up her son's marriage to the woman at breakfast. Later that week, she invited Catherine to the ball at the palace. Since he does not want to marry Catherine, Alexander is not delighted about this. The Queen feels Catherine is the right person for him, even if he doesn't show much excitement for her. Alexander suddenly comes up with a scheme to get away from Catherine. He lets his mother know that he will be attending a fundraiser in the Haven Islands the same day as the ball. The Queen is upset that she was not made aware of this, but Alexander is certain that skipping the event would damage his reputation. In the end, the Queen grants him permission to go but cautions him against wasting time on idle illusions. The scene that follows has Olivia perusing the bookshelves of a New York bookshop when she comes upon her own book, Lovebound. The books tumble as Prince Alexander and the other customer clash in the same shop. He sincerely apologizes and assists her in gathering the books. As Alexander sees Lovebound in her hands, he remarks on how much he adores the book. The prince has the impression that he has seen the girl somewhere, but Olivia thanks him and turns to go without realizing who he is. Alexander learns she is the author he just complimented when he saw her picture on the book's cover, and she departs. However, it's too late. Olivia has already been disoriented in the bustle of New York. Olivia is getting some alone time in her apartment when she hears a loud tap on the door. When she opens it, takeout food arrives from her buddy Katie. The two then discuss writer's block and her most recent breakup. Abruptly, Katie spots a Haven Island pamphlet set on the table. She notes that her buddy may be able to get over her writer's block thanks to the trip. After giving it some thought, Olivia decides to take a week-long vacation to the Haven Islands. The two pals then make their way to their resort accommodation on the stunning tropical island. Olivia concentrates on her job, while Katie instantly makes her way to the pool. However, she also chooses to take a break and go for a stroll along the beach, since she is feeling uninspired for the book. She sees her ex-boyfriend Kyle with a female at the same resort a short while later. In an attempt to stay hidden, she dives into the closest shrubs. Abruptly, she is greeted from behind by the endearing stranger from the bookshop. He asks whether everything is well and introduces himself as Alexander. Olivia, feeling a little ashamed, tells a falsehood about what happened, saying she was just taking in the scenery. Alexander apologizes for not recognizing her earlier in New York and asks if she's seeking for inspiration for her next book. At that moment, Tiffany, Kyle's new girlfriend, enters the picture. The ex-boyfriend describes how he met Tiffany at a business encounter 3 months before. Olivia, however, finds Kyle's actions puzzling. He was usually preoccupied at business and refused to take a vacation while they were together. However, out of the blue, he chooses to show up to the same resort where she is vacationing with his new partner. Later, Olivia becomes mad with Kyle for cheating on her beside the pool. Katie, nevertheless, is more drawn to the new guy she was speaking with before. That evening, Alexander pays a visit to the marine laboratory on the island and looks about with a sense of immense pride. Winston shows up at that same time to let him know that Dr. Lee would not be able to make it to the fundraiser. Alexander chooses to host it himself as he is aware that this is the only way the lab can generate revenue. However, he is a little anxious about having to compose a speech for the occasion. During their morning stroll, Alexander and Winston run across Olivia and Katie in the following scenario. Olivia queries if the two guys are on a joint holiday. The prince claims they are here as part-time consultants for the Marine Reserve fundraising in an attempt to conceal his true identity. Then he offers to take the two women around the resort's many amenities. Katie instantly accepts, seeing an opportunity to mingle with fascinating and attractive guys. Olivia declines the invitation at first, but she eventually accepts after Katie asks her to. Upon arranging a kind of double date, the two guys part ways. As they cheerfully make their way to their quarters, we catch Queen Patricia's security chief, Ridley, snooping on the prince. Then he phones the queen to say there's nothing to worry about just yet. Olivia and Katie arrive to the beach the next morning to have a look around the resort's amenities. In contrast, the prince has a little more daring strategy in mind. They will soon be kayaking in open waters. Olivia falls into the water in a humorous way as Alexander is trying to teach her how to use a paddle. She then shoves Alexander into the water, ashamed a little bit, and they both laugh. Tiffany then extends an invitation to Olivia and Alexander to play volleyball. Breaking the silence, Kyle tells his new girlfriend Olivia that she doesn't really like sports. She takes offense at the offer and quickly accepts, dragging the prince with her. They finally prevail in the game after making some amazing maneuvers. Furious to see his ex-girlfriend having fun with a different guy, Kyle leaves Tiffany bewildered and goes away. Alexander and Olivia take a stroll along the beach after lunch. They don't realize that Ridley is giving the queen all of this information, and she wants him to learn more about this mysterious girl. The prince shares details about his personal life in the interim. His late father was a fervent environmentalist, but his mother doesn't share his enthusiasm for marine ecology. Alexander visits the island, which provides him mental power anytime he is doubting himself. Olivia, on the other hand, discloses her recent difficulties in coming up with a strong beginning for her new book. Concerned about the impending deadline, she acknowledges that every experience in her past novels was purely fictional. Alexander tells her that her admirers won't mind waiting for the next book and is highly pleased by her inventiveness. Olivia receives an invitation from the prince to accompany him to the Marine Reserve fundraiser as he bids her farewell for the evening. It's clear that they are both gradually falling in love at this moment. When Killy returns to the room later, she discovers Olivia using her laptop to write something. The much-needed motivation to start writing her new book has finally been discovered by the author. Nevertheless, Ridley, posing as a hotel employee, interrupts them. He asks for their names, gives them a bottle of champagne as a present, and then departs. After that, he reports back to the queen, who at last finds out about Olivia. Upon seeing that the common girl is from a working-class background, the queen requests that her security chief keep her son and the common girl apart. Alexander sees Olivia early the next day and expresses his enjoyment of her presence. Just as the prince is ready to reveal that he is a royal, Ridley enters the scene out of nowhere. He gives the prince a call from the queen, but Alexander turns him down and eventually tells Olivia who he really is. He claims he lied to her about his occupation and that he is a real royal. Sadly, Olivia is offended by this and leaves the place furiously, believing she has been duped. She tells Katie everything about Alexander's true identity once she's back in her room. She tells how he has been deceiving her for the last 3 days. Katie, however, argues that maybe the prince just wants to engage with regular people on a real level without frightening them. The prince himself unexpectedly interrupts their talk to beg Olivia for forgiveness. He swears that from now on, he won't withhold anything from her. Olivia invites Alexander to take her out to lunch after deciding to forgive him. As all is going on, Ridley is returning to Trovia after his termination from the Haven Islands. When Alexander contacts the queen, she queries if he is really interested in the ordinary girl. The chief of security replies that he has never seen the prince this joyful. Then he starts to talk about love, but he stops himself. We can see that there is a relationship between the queen and Ridley based on her response. Olivia and Alexander go to the Haven Marine Reserve that afternoon. Here, he confides in her that he finds it difficult to articulate his sentiments in paper, which is why he is struggling to write the fundraiser's opening address. The two went snorkeling after taking a quick look at the fish in the conservatory. Remarkably, Olivia finds the underwater experience enjoyable and offers to assist Alexander with his speaking. He brings her to a hidden location next to a waterfall a few hours later. Alexander describes how, before to his father's passing, he used to go to this location with him. Speaking about his father's environmental efforts, he expressed his hope that he could do more to the Marine Reserve. Olivia asks him why he can't pursue his dream. He tells her about his mother in return. The Queen prefers that he concentrate on his conventional responsibilities rather than give in to his own fancies. Olivia, on the other hand, exhorts him to have bravery and be honest with himself about his ambitions. They run upon Kyle and his girlfriend, who are fighting, while returning from the waterfall. Alexander gets a call at that very moment, leaving Olivia and her ex-boyfriend alone themselves. Remorseful over his new connection, Kyle tries to give her a hug. However, he quietly returns to his room when she politely declines his advances. In his regal costume, Alexander twitches anxiously on the balcony on the evening of the Marine Reserve fundraising. The next day, he will go back to his own country, and he is concerned about how he will inform his love interest of this. Olivia shows in at the same moment, looking lovely in her deep red gown. After that, the two go over to the fundraising function, where Alexander makes the announcement about forming a foundation to aid the Haven Island Marine Reserve facility. Following the gala, the two converse and dance together. Alexander requests to get a preview of Olivia's next book. She reluctantly explains that it's about a regular girl who discovers love on a magical island. She then expresses her gratitude to him for his tour of the island and assistance in getting beyond her writer's block. The two are now incredibly in love with one another and are on the verge of kissing when Queen Patricia steps in. The Queen extends an invitation to the two lovers to supper after their short meeting. Olivia discovers the Queen's habit of caressing Ridley's hands before they can reach the dining table. There's obviously something amorous between the two, she informs Alexander. After the meal, the Queen gives her son a warning not to reveal ambitious plans without her approval. She then admits that she has never read any of Olivia's novels and begins to make mocking comments about Olivia. She notes that they often target readers who have little taste in literature. The Queen then asks in jest if there are any royal caricatures in her new book. Olivia quickly responds, "It doesn't contain anything like that yet, but that might change soon." Simultaneously, Ridley requests that the prince pose for traditional pictures with the fundraiser's donors. Although Alexander declines, his mother is adamant that he serve the visitors. When the two ladies are alone themselves, the Queen reveals her own self. Is Olivia in love with her son, she asks. She interprets the latter's silence as a yes and informs her that the news is alarming. A regular girl doesn't belong in a royal family and never will, according to the Queen. She wants her to go without telling Alexander so as to prevent more harm. Olivia silently departs the gathering before anybody notices her, hurt and disappointed. Kyle notices Olivia crying as she walks outside the fundraising hall. He claims to have always known she was too wonderful for the prince and shares his worries about her new relationship. After owning up to his previous transgressions, Kyle attempts to mend his relationship with his ex-girlfriend by apologizing to her. She turns away, however, and won't go back with him. Olivia tells her buddy Katie everything when she gets to her room. After packing their belongings, the two depart from the Haven Islands. Katie texts Winston to explain the issue just before leaving the island on a boat. Alexander goes his lover's chamber first thing the next morning and discovers it is vacant. Winston then displays to him the text message that Katie sent him. Alexander charges straight toward Olivia, certain that his mother must have said something hurtful to her. Not too long later, he discovers his mother eating breakfast with Ridley. Alexander approaches the Queen, who instructs him not to make too much of a fuss and forbids him from going after an ordinary person. She says that it is imperative to protect the royal legacy. Alexander responds by disclosing that he has always prioritized his responsibilities above his pleasure. Then he makes the observation that the Queen is in a similar situation. She has feelings for Ridley, but her sense of duty prevents her from pursuing him. Taken aback by this disclosure, the Queen acknowledges that her head of security showed her kindness after her husband's death. However, engaging in intimate relations with Ridley would cause a rift among the royal court. Alexander asks his mother to pick their happiness for once, tired of all the pointless formalities. At the following scene, Olivia is back at her apartment in New York. After that, she returns to her work and completes the novel's draft. In contrast to her other works, this one has a depressing conclusion in which the two major protagonists do not wind up together. The next thing we see is Olivia having a video conference with her boss. The latter exalts the storyline of the recently released book, Tropical Island Royals and Romance. She does, however, voice her reservations with the story's conclusion. In an upbeat, inspiring tale, Viewers want the two main characters to end up together. Olivia responds, however, by reminding out that happily ever afters aren't always achievable. A knock on the door abruptly ends the gathering. Olivia answers to find Winston, Katie, and Alexander at her door. The prince tells her he loves her and that he can't go without her. Unexpectedly, the Queen and Ridley, her lover, have traveled to New York together. Her Majesty is grateful to the author for demonstrating to her that traditional beliefs shouldn't stand in the way of a family's happiness. After bestowing blessings upon Olivia and Alexander, she departs for a romantic lunch of her own, as the manager, who is listening in on the whole discussion, urges Olivia to give her narrative a happy conclusion. The film concludes with Alexander and Olivia kissing.